look. But it was the Jake Eichel or Jack Eichel. I'm pretty sure it's Jake though. Guy. That's who the Buffalo Sabres got. But anyway, Minnesota Wild lost to them in their first preseason game, 3-2. It's preseason hockey. Like, I wouldn't look too much into it. More than anything, their practices, their scrimmages, their training exercises. They're not competitive things that you should be concerned about. The end results. You should be focused on, well, does so and so look, slow, or is our goalie getting beat on shots? He should be that's all you should be looking for in preseason hockey. So don't get too worked up if the Wild struggle a little bit here in the preseason. It's not necessarily any sort of indicator on what the regular season is going to be like, at least in my opinion. But so hockey fans have something to be excited about. Their season is underway. All right, now a balls juice topic that I'm going to squeeze in here quick. You like that? Pun intended. Former UFC pioneer, fighter from my childhood that I loved. Back when the fights were just one round, fight till the other guy's, fight till one guy beats the other guy. One Tank Abbott. He has his own podcast where he talks his mind, talks UFC, things of that nature. Again, he's a MMA UFC legend. But he ranted on his podcast the other day, and it's got people in an uproar, on that he wants to fight a woman, any woman in the world. He would beat any woman in the world in a fight, and he wants to prove this. So any woman that wants to fight him can come fight him. And because he is a man and genetically superior, it doesn't matter who the woman is, he will beat them in a fight. Obviously, I shouldn't have to point out by this point that he is referring specifically to one Ronda Rousey, but I'm sure he'd take Cyborg or anybody else as well, for that matter, to prove his point. But he goes on to say, in quite humorous fashion at least, I'm sure he was serious, but I still thought it was funny that this guy said this stuff. And maybe that's an indictment on my character, I don't know, but anyway, so not only did he say, I want to fight a woman because I can beat any woman in the world because men are better than women at everything, and that's just the way it is, so I'll prove it. He goes on to say, trying to provoke Ronda Rousey, like I said, he goes on to say that here are the stakes. If you win the fight, if I get beat and the female wins the fight, I'll give him $100,000 or $1 million, whatever it was. But if I win the fight, that female has to go and make me a sandwich. I did not make that up. That was not a bad taste Scotty Ball joke. Even though it kind of sounded like one, right? That is literally the words that came out of the man's mouth. If this fight happens between him and Ronda Rousey or any other woman in the world who thinks they could take him in a fight, if the woman loses, they have to go in a kitchen and make him a sandwich. They have to prepare him a sandwich with some bread and some meat and some cheese and maybe some lettuce, some mayo if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not. I hate mayo with a passion. There are a few things in known existence that I hate more than mayonnaise. But anyway, thought it was hilarious. This old big dude coming out, spouting this nonsense for no good reason other than just to get his name in the news. And good for him. He succeeded. At least we talked about him here on Balls Deep Sports Talk. And I know we've never talked about the great UFC fighter Tank Abbott before here on the show. All right, so moving on to more relevant, actual important quickies. In the WNBA, as I mentioned, their playoffs are underway. The first round is over. Their first round consists of a best-of-3 series, and three of those 4 first-round matches went the full 3 games. The only team winning their game via sweep in 2-game fashion would be the Phoenix Mercury, and they will be taking on the number 1 seed Minnesota Lynx, who won in 3 games. This is the 3rd straight time that the Lynx and the Phoenix Mercury have met in the Western Conference Finals. Awesome statistic. Do not be surprised if the Phoenix Mercury come out of this victorious. That's no indictment on my Minnesota Lynx. The Minnesota Lynx are great. And when they play the best when they play their best basketball, they are without question the best team in the WNBA. Without question, top to bottom, they have the most talent by far when they're playing their best as a team. Should Minnesota at any point in this series not be playing their best ball as a team, Phoenix is every bit the type of squad that just doesn't make mistakes and always finds a way to capitalize and vulture on your miscues and makes you pay for them. So that's what it's going to come down to for the Minnesota Lynx. So long as their field goal percentage is, respectable, good, where they want it to be, and the turnovers are low, they should win this series. However, if either one of those things change, or if for some reason Phoenix is able to get some sort of fast break transition game going, those would be the only ways I see Phoenix winning. But it is possible. Phoenix is a great team. But so there's your Western Conference Finals. And then out in the East, we had the 1 seed New York Liberty, I believe. They will be playing the Indiana Fever, who upset the number 2 seed Chicago Sky and outed the WNBA MVP of this year, Ella Bella Dawn, or however you say her name. She is, wow. She's a great reason for guys to start watching professional women's basketball. We'll just leave it at that. But unfortunately, now you don't get to see her do that. And by the way, she's like, skill-wise, she's almost the Steph Curry of the WNBA. Almost. Not quite to that extent, obviously, but to try to just, have some kind of comparison. That's sort of what she's like in the WNBA. But alas, she will not be in the Eastern Conference Finals because her Chicago Sky were upset by the Indiana Fever. The New York Liberty, they're supposed to be by far, the best team. This should be an easy win, but Indiana's rolling. Indiana's gritty. And again, this is another one that the favorites should win because they've got more talent, they've got more experience, they're just better team. This should be a Minnesota versus New York championship. However, both Indiana and Phoenix have all the elements of every classic sports team that is your small market underdog, lesser big names type of team that ends up going on to beat those guys and win the championships. So it should be a great conference finals in the WNBA. Check it out. All right, moving on to PGA. Like I mentioned earlier, the Tour Championship is this weekend. It is the final tournament in the PGA's FedEx Cup playoffs. Jason Day is currently owning the male professional golf world. He has like a 2,000 point lead on second place, which I would believe is Jordan Spieth. After this week's Tour Championship tournament is done, immediately the points will be figured based off of where everybody finishes in that tournament, added to their previous points, and that will give us the final results of our FedEx Cup Championship. So at least to my understanding, it is very, very possible that we could have two individuals hoisting trophies and celebrating victories of some kind on Sunday in the PGA Tour. One who actually wins the tournament, and then the person who has the highest cumulative points over the entire season and wins the season. And I believe there are only 30 golfers competing in the Tour Championship for said honor as they weed it down throughout the tournaments involved in the FedEx Cup playoff series. And yeah, like I said, Jason Day looks to be by far the favorite to walk out with the FedEx Cup. The way he's been playing, no reason to believe that he is not, that he won't be, winning the tournament itself too, as well as the FedEx Cup. But I want to say that if anyone in the top 5 of the standings right now, if you look at the top 5 FedEx Cup standings right now, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard this somewhere, which means it must be true. But I'm pretty sure that if anyone who's currently in the top 5 wins this final tour championship, that because of the point, like they prorate the points from each tournament that you win. Like, you don't get the same point value for winning this tournament as you do for winning the Butthole John Deere Classic, in the middle of May or whatever, that nobody watches. Consequently too, like if you're, winning a non-major tournament on the schedule as opposed to winning the Masters, you get more points for winning the Masters. So that's all taken into consideration. But anyway, to finish out the thought, like I said, I'm pretty sure I heard that anyone who's currently in the top 5, if they win first place in this final Tour Championship tournament, that they will mathematically have the points to win the FedEx Cup, and that it will, no one else could catch them. Even if you're in 5th place and the guy who's in first place gets 2nd and you won it, winning that final one is that many points, that it would catapult you over the top there. So still plenty of drama to be had. I think that's why they wrote that in there. Otherwise, we'd be going into this final tournament knowing, well, so-and-so's got an insurmountable lead in this tournament. It's just a formality. So yeah, there's your golf update. Please, if you are a golf fan, if you're not a golf fan, but, you think you'd maybe give it a chance, Spieth, McIlroy, Jason Day, Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson, this whole era of golfers that are emerging right now and claiming it as their era are absolutely phenomenal to watch play the game of golf. And they're every bit as star as Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, or anyone else. So please give them their fair due. Check them out. NASCAR, like I said earlier, I believe their 4-race playoff starts this week, possibly next week, where they will be whittling it down from, I want to say, 16 to 4, something like that. Stay in tune. Check it out. Go research online. I'm running out of showtime. But we will be talking about the results, obviously, as we have actual winners and losers and championships to discuss. We always get that in there. But so NASCAR, more NASCAR to come up in the following weeks. All right. Tweet. All right. Our final Balls Quickie before we get to our Balls Deep Thought of the night, Balls Deep Thought of the day, regards Pro Wrestling, WWE. If you listen to the show, we talk about that. This last Sunday was their Night of Champions pay-per-view. For the most part, I thought the first 2 hours of the pay-per-view were extremely good. Once the Cena-Seth Rollins match came around in the third hour, it all went downhill. The finish with Kane coming back as Masked Kane, and now his storyline on Raw is all that he, is this whole Jekyll and Hyde, doesn't remember things when he's got the mask on, it's just, man, it put the audience to sleep. It killed the buzz. I actually thought that Sting put on a very impressive, admirable, surprising match versus Seth. However, it cost him. It may be his last match because he gave so much into it. He went backwards through a table, which was a terrible spill. The idiots who call it fake should just watch some of these fake moves and tell me how fake the injuries are and how fake the pain is. Fake is not the right word. If you use the word fake, you need to raise your intelligence level, buddy, or ma'am, whichever the case may be. But so you had what I thought was this great Sting-Seth match at the end, and then the writing for the finish was just awful. Kane returns. Sheamus was going to cash in Money in the Bank. He doesn't, because Kane chokeslams everybody. We don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. So, yay, it's the return of Tweener Kane, only he's in a mask, and nobody cares about this guy anyway. And now he's in some sort of picture for the title, with freaking, oh God, it ended in a giant mess. The good stuff. We have a new Divas champion. Charlotte won, although I wish she would have taken it on Monday Night Raw so that AJ would have stayed tied with Nikki Bella for the longest reign. I don't understand why you let Nikki have the reign just to have her lose it a couple days later. That makes no sense from a building standpoint whatsoever. But that's WWE Creative. We all know how unintelligent they've been for a lot of anything that Paul